Hello, welcome to the Gears 5 review. So basically, just the only recap you need from Gears of War 4 going forward is at the end of that game, it's revealed that Kate has a locust symbol and is related to the locust. Starting off, we meet a new guy named Foz, and instantly he's shown to be an asshole. JD and him kind of get into a cock measuring contest, and they fight. And yeah, so basically he's a one-dimensional character. And then of course, classic Gears action starts off. JD and the crew are fighting the swarm, and he forces Baird to use the Hammer of Dawn system, which at first works out pretty well, but then it backfires and it starts destroying the whole city. JD then goes to try to save Lizzie Carmine, of course, another Carmine, who then dies because of the Hammer of Dawn explosion, and JD is injured, and it basically, we then get a time cut forward. After the time cut, a couple months have passed, and Kate and Dell are trying to get Oscar to leave the place that he's living because it's obviously dangerous, and Oscar, being a dumbass for the sake of being a dumbass, doesn't want to leave because he doesn't trust the cog. Nobody trusts the cog in this game. Uh, of course they're attacked while you're there, so you have to do some cover shooting to save everybody, but in a twist, Kate is actually kidnapped by a snatcher and forced to take control of the swarm, eventually taking control of a big motherfucker with a hammer who then kills Oscar. So Kate kills her own uncle and still at this point doesn't say what she's done. She still keeps it somewhat of a secret, and now she needs to go find answers even though JD is saying no. Marcus, for whatever reason, says to go to New Hope because call back to Gears of War 2. This is my first major complaint with the story. I don't get why Marcus tells Kate to go here, but he does, and Kate listens to him, and him and Dell know JD. They get on a skiff and get ready to go find New Hope in search of answers. We are now dumped into the first semi-open world of the game. And by open world, I mean that it's a big area that you can ride around in. It's not a very good open world at all. The areas that I've circled in red, those are all linear missions like classic Gears, go through hallway to hallway, cover to cover, complete your objective. All the area that I've circled in yellow, just nothing. There's nothing to do in these areas besides just ride around on your skiff to get to the next linear mission. It could have been set up for each one of the red things is just a new chapter, like any other Gears games. The fact that it's open world doesn't add anything because you're just driving around in a completely vacant, empty space, just getting to the next linear mission. Every single area that you're allowed to interact with is marked by these very out of place yellow flags. They don't look like they belong. They were put there because the map design is so terrible that without these flags, you wouldn't know where to stop. But they're kind of skewed around in these weird places, and so as soon as you see these flags, you know, okay, here's where I can actually do something. There's no random encounters in this open world at all. It's trying to be Metro Exodus in this fact, but the way that made Metro work was even traversing from point A to point B, there were mutants and enemies that you ran into while you were getting to the next main objective. In this, there's nothing, no threats. You see the yellow flag and you know, okay, time for some actual gameplay. We now arrive at New Hope from Gears War 2. Any Gears fan will instantly recognize the outside of the location, despite the fact that it's much more destroyed because of Marcus and the gang's visit last time. And we battle our way inside. We now meet Niles. You'll also remember him from Gears of War 2. He was a scientist who helped create the Locust, who put his brain inside a computer before he died. He takes us through the facility where we see that there are still some Locusts left frozen, as well as sires. He then tricks Kate into getting hooked up into a machine that connects her to the matriarch, which is basically just a berserker with spikes on its back. By connecting herself to this, she's thinking that she can sever the link between her and the swarm, which she kind of does, but in doing so, she awakens her mother inside of the swarm and allows her to basically become the new queen and start making the swarm more intelligent. I guess the swarm, they know how to fight, but not that well if they don't have a leader. They get smarter when there's a queen guiding them. We then get in a boss fight and kill the berserker, I mean matriarch. Kate gets a couple more visions as the thing is dying. I think these are the last visions she gets in the game because she's completely getting rid of the link between her and the swarm. And after the thing is completely dead, they escape New Hope. We now go to a UIR controlled area known as Vasgar, and I love this. Literally, right as we get here, Baird's talking to us, and at the very end of his sentence, he says, "Alright, come and talk to me." And he walks out of the room, and the objective is now go see Baird. When he was literally just there, we have to just walk down a short hallway and start another cutscene with him. I do not know how this was approved. Out of nowhere, JD and Foz show up. Remember Foz? We've seen him for a total of about 30 minutes in this game. They show up and they want to help. It's not really explained why. I mean, for JD, it makes somewhat sense because in Gears of War 4 and in the beginning of Gears 5, he's, you know, very good friends with Kate and Del. But Foz, suddenly him and JD are friends now. It's not really explained, and now he wants to help the crew. Uh, they reluctantly agree and start their journey. We're now dropped into another open world. Just like last time, it's basically just a bunch of linear missions, and you know how to start them because of the yellow flags. And a bunch, even worse than the snow area, a bunch of just empty space where you just drive and drive and drive. After going around and killing some swarm, uh, Dell is early celebrating on the top of a moving rocket when a snatcher gets him, and Foz comes to the rescue and saves him, cementing himself as now a permanent member of the crew. Uh, it's just why was any of the stuff at the beginning of the game with him necessary? I get that they're trying to have a character building moment here, but it just doesn't work. We see Foz for like 30 minutes tops. He's an asshole. Then we don't see him for a while. It's not like he's constantly there being a dick, or we constantly see him changing over time. No, he's a dick, then we don't see him. Now all of a sudden he's sorry about being a dick. They're not sure if they can trust him, but then he saves Dell, so, you know, it's very cliche. I was expecting him to either sacrifice himself or to save somebody. I saw it coming a mile away. I don't get the point. Why introduce Foz as a bad guy if he's just gonna change within a matter of minutes. It it's really rushed character development, and I personally don't see a point for it. We now are introduced to a rip-off Riftworm from Gears of War 2. This game just keeps seeming to pull from Gears of War 2. So yeah, it's basically just Riftworm 2.0, I'm gonna call it. They're fighting it, and it traps them underneath the rocket launch. The rocket then starts to launch in the air, and the fire fucks up the Riftworm, so it ends up retreating, and the Hammer of Dawn rocket is now launched into space, so the Gears can now return back to their city. Once we get back to the city, we're finally treated to an actual classic Gears structure mission, just no open world nonsense, just point A to point B, cover shooting, killing Swarm, what, the game does best. After a little while of fighting, we're treated to, in my opinion, I hated this. I thought that this was so stupid. Queen Reyna shows herself, and the Lancers get taken underground during the explosion when she comes out and she grabs Kate. Right here, yeah, their Lancers fell, but there's like, oh my god, there's so many weapons on this battlefield right up to this point. There's like Hammer Dawns, Nashers, pistols, Lancers. There's so many things. It just shows two Lancers fall underground. Like, you're telling me not one of them has a pistol on them? So they grab their knives and rush Reyna, which is clearly stupid. She grabs both JD and Dell and Kate, and as Kate, you have to choose who do you save. I mean, it's such a just it feels very rushed as well, and no matter what, it seems like a bad choice. Dell's with you a priority of the game. You see him a lot. He's more present in this game, and he's also just a more likable character. But then JD is Marcus's son, you know. So either way, it seems like you don't want to kill either of them, and it doesn't really change much either. Uh, I did both endings, uh, but what's funny is after you choose which one to save, instead of Reyna easily just snapping Kate and either Dell or JD's neck, she drops the other person that you saved, drops you, and just walks away, kinda. Like, she right there, she could have killed Kate and just ended the entire thing, but no, she just walks away. I find this extremely stupid. I chose to kill JD the first time around because I really wanted to see how Marcus would react to it. And I was very disappointed by this. He just kind of goes, "Oh no, JD. Oh no." And that's it. Like, he doesn't really emote correctly at all. Like, that's your son. That's your, he already lost his wife, so that's like the only other piece of you, and he doesn't really emote the way that I feel like he should. I mean, you compare this to Gears of War 3 where Dom dies and he's on the floor screaming and shouting, and he can't believe what's going on. He finds out his own son is dead in this game, and he kind of just shrugs it off. We now have to fight the Riftworm ripoff again, this time finally defeating it. Jack sacrifices himself this time, and the game actually treats this as the saddest death. This is when the very sad music plays, and you see all the Hammer of Dawns just raining down, and then, depending on who you saved, it cuts to a scene with either everybody in Dell or everybody in JD, and Kate rips off her locust necklace because up until this point she was still wearing it for some reason, and kind of looks off into the distance and basically says, "I'll solve this in Gear 6," and the credits roll. It's a pretty shitty ending to an overall not shitty story, but a pretty underwhelming one, in my opinion. Now, at its core, the multiplayer is still classic Gears. You got your sniping, shotgunning, and lancering, just like how it's been since Gears of War 1. But what's different is now the Lancer is extremely powerful. It kind of feels like Gears of War Judgment in terms of how powerful the Lancer is. You can get mowed down by this thing even in up close situations where in past games the Gnasher would totally annihilate you, it's not the case anymore. Somebody with an active reloaded Lancer can win a decent amount of fights up close. And then you have weapons like the Claw and the Retro Lancer that are just even more insane. You just get shredded by these things. This results in a lot of matches that just it really turns it feels like Call of Duty. You're lancering, the other guy's lancering. It's just nobody uses the shotguns in some games. There are a lot of Gears purists, I feel like, that purposely stick with the Gnasher because that's more fun. But a lot of the people hopping onto this game, maybe they haven't played Gears before, they love to Lancer. I found this the worst in King of the Hill. It just if you're trying to shotgun in King of the Hill, especially on a map like Bunker, which is very spread out, you will just get annihilated by the Lancer. It's really not fun to me. If I wanted to just use assault rifles and nothing else, I would play Call of Duty. That's not to say you can't shotgun. In things like Guardian and Execution, people shotgun a lot more, and it still is just as satisfying as it's always been to wipe a whole team with your Gnasher. It's still something that no other multiplayer game feels like. And now to talk about the new game mode, Escape. This mode, I really wasn't a fan of it at all. It's kind of like Horde, but with a beginning and an end. Well, I guess Horde goes to 50 waves and then it ends, but you start at the end of a place and then you basically just run to the exit while fighting the swarm along the way. Each character has different abilities, like somebody has a electro knife and somebody has a drop shield. I didn't really play much of this mode. It seems very grindy to me, like you have to play it over and over and over again in order to level up your character to get more cards that basically makes your character better. I wasn't a fan of this mode at all. Even from E3 watching the gameplay reveal of it, I thought it looked boring and it plays just as boring as it looks. Some people may love this mode, but for me personally, I was not a fan at all. Horde, I also wasn't a big fan of in this game. It's similar to Gears of War 4's Horde, where uh, different characters have different abilities, but what separates this one from Gears 4 is it's locked for certain characters. Like, for example, Marcus has an ability that no other character can have. Same with JD, same with Del. So you can't customize your character to your liking. You're kind of stuck playing as whatever character has the role that you like. And, you know, getting to 50 waves is still very time consuming. There's still no pausing. So if you're about halfway through and one of your friends has got to go take a piss or shit or something, you're kind of out of luck. Uh, there's still a boss fight every 10 waves. I only got to about wave 25 before I just got bored. Uh, I like the classic Horde from like Gears of War 2 and Gears of War 3. I don't like all the stuff that they keep adding to it. So, again, uh, I did not really care for this. Performance. This has been very terrible for me. I've been playing on the PC, and it's just been a stuttery mess since launch. A lot of people are saying that it's one of the best PC ports they've ever seen and runs flawlessly. But for me and a decent amount of other people, I've been on the Gears forums, I've been on Reddit, uh, the game is very stuttery. And as you can see from the footage I've provided, this is me running a test. I get very low GPU usage no matter what I do. The only way to get high GPU usage is to set the resolution to 4K, and then I can't play the game at 144 FPS. So it's either have the game stutter or have the FPS low. Uh, you might have noticed as well that for the story, for when I covered the story, I didn't show my own gameplay. That's because I didn't record the first time around, and they put out a driver update for NVIDIA, and the story is almost unplayable for me now. The stuttering is so terrible that I had to go and use other people's clips for the story. The game is just terribly optimized for NVIDIA cards. Uh, the TC, the coalition, they have yet to respond to any of these allegations. Uh, I mean, I can't even play the game anymore. This is, you may differ, you may run the game flawlessly, but for me, it runs terribly. And no other game has this problem, just Gears of War 5, and I've done benchmarks on my computer. Everything is running correctly. I have an RTX 2080, so I should be able to run this game flawlessly. But no, the optimization is just terrible. It's not even full screen. When you set the resolution on this game to full screen, well, I mean for the display mode, it's not actually full screen. It's borderless window, which right there in 2019, not having a full screen option for a AAA title, it just blows me away. I Performance for me has been a huge issue, and I hope I'm in the minority here, but on the Gears forums, I've been seeing a lot and a lot and a lot of people complain about this as well, and it just the coalition of Microsoft have yet to acknowledge us. A few days ago, I then make a post on the Gears forum saying I would love a response from the coalition to, at least be acknowledged that they know is an issue. And right now, I think that they're a very unprofessional company. The moderator on the forum deletes this post under the guidelines that it's toxic. I then message him and say, hey, don't delete my post like that. It's true. It's unprofessional that these people haven't replied yet. Half the Gears forum is posting about the bad performance issues. You know, the fact that we haven't gotten a response is a bad thing. And the moderator responds by banning my account. So this is the experience I've had trying to get a fix for the problems. All in all, I was very disappointed with Gears of War 5. Uh, the story I really did not enjoy. I thought it was a bit rushed. I did not like the ending, and the open world segments do not fit Gears of War at all, in my opinion. The multiplayer still has moments of beauty that no other multiplayer game can offer for me. The shotgunning and sniping and just the sound effects still are done amazingly, but the Lancer needs to be nerfed, and Escape and Horde are just not very fun, in my opinion, but other people may disagree with that. Performance was the biggest thing here. Hopefully, it'll get fixed in the future. It doesn't seem likely because a lot of people did have issues with Gears of War 4 on PC that were never fixed, and there's still issues today. But we'll see. Right now, I got to give the game a 5 out of 10. And this could easily go up to a 7 with the bug fixes. If the stuttering and the frame rate are fixed, I could easily give this a 7. And if The multiplayer, if the Lancer is nerfed, I could even say maybe even an 8. But if you're a Gears fan, I still say, play this game. On Xbox, I've heard it runs perfectly, so you're not going to get the stutter issues. On maybe you have it on PC and maybe you're one of the lucky ones who doesn't have the issues. It's a decent game that's bogged down by performance issues, a lackluster campaign, and changes to the multiplayer that aren't for the better.